Have you ever looked at these new PC games and thought, okay, they look good, but are they really all that? Today, we're going to prove that great graphics don't depend on release dates. I've picked 15 PC games considered old that have aged like fine wine and absolutely humiliate many modern games when it comes to visuals. They still look amazing today, full of style, and best of all, they don't require a NASA-level PC. Forget the absurd system requirements. This is all about truly beautiful games. Let's get into the list.
Deus Ex Human Revolution. When we talk about games that humiliate the modern era, Deus Ex Human Revolution is at the top of the list because of its absolute mastery of atmospheric identity. Released in 2011, this game didn't just try to be realistic, it chose a bold, high-contrast gold and black cyber renaissance aesthetic that remains stunning 15 years later. While modern 2026 RPGs often look cluttered and visually messy, Human Revolution is sharp and intentional. Every office in Seraph Industries and every alleyway in Hengshaw is a masterclass in environmental storytelling through lighting. The way the light bleeds through the rain-slicked windows of Detroit creates a mood that modern games struggle to replicate with all their ray tracing power. It proves that a cohesive art style is more powerful than a high polygon count. It runs flawlessly on modest hardware today, yet it delivers a more immersive, visually striking version of the future than many next-gen titles that require an RTX 50 series just to hit 60 frames. If you want a game that feels like a living, breathing concept art book, this is it.
Half-Life 2. It is almost frightening how well Half-Life 2 holds up. Released in 2004, Valve's masterpiece still humiliates modern shooters when it comes to physics-based visuals. Most games today use static environments, but in Half-Life 2, the world is a playground. The Source engine brought a level of material work, the way wood splinters, the way metal clangs, and the way water reacts to the player, that many 2026 titles have actually scaled back to save on performance. But the real kicker is the facial animations. Even without modern motion capture, the characters in Half-Life 2 have an internal life and expressive eyes that feel more human than many of the uncanny valley faces we see in modern big-budget releases. The lighting in City 17, especially during the sunset in Highway 17, has a natural, grounded quality that doesn't need fake cinematic filters to look beautiful. It's a clean, crisp, and technically perfect experience that reminds us that Valve was light years ahead of the industry 2 decades ago.
Spec Ops: The Line is a game that humbles the modern industry not through raw texture resolution, but through visual evolution. In most modern shooters, your character looks the same from the first minute to the last. In Spec Ops, you watch the physical and environmental decay in real time. As the sand of Dubai buries the city's opulent skyscrapers, the lighting shifts from a blinding luxury gold to a suffocating, gritty sepia. The sand physics were revolutionary in 2012. Shooting a window to let a wave of sand bury your enemies is a visual and mechanical thrill that modern safe shooters rarely attempt. The way the protagonists' uniforms become tattered, their skin becomes burnt by the sun, and their faces become caked in blood and grit is a level of detail that modern games often ignore. It's a hauntingly beautiful game that uses its visuals to tell a story of moral collapse, proving that art direction is about more than just pretty pixels. It's about the impact the image has on the player.
Sniper Elite 3? A lot of people overlook Sniper Elite 3 when talking about graphics, but in terms of material fidelity and anatomical detail, it still puts modern action games to shame. Released in 2014, the game's depiction of North Africa is a masterclass in lighting and long-distance rendering.
The way the sun hits the sandstone ruins and the heat haze that shimmers over the desert creates a tangible sense of environment that many modern games lose by overusing motion blur. But the real star is the X-ray kill cam. The technical precision required to render the internal organs, skeletal structure, and the way a bullet deforms as it passes through a target is still the gold standard for the series. While modern games focus on flashy, screen-filling explosions, Sniper Elite 3 focused on the surgical, high-fidelity detail of a single shot. It runs like a dream on almost any PC today, offering a level of visual feedback and crunchy detail that makes modern, floaty combat systems feel like they're made of cardboard.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is genuinely mind-blowing that Grand Theft Auto 5 originally launched on the PS3 and Xbox 360, because the PC version we play today still humiliates modern open-world games in terms of visual cohesion. When you crank the settings up, the Los Santos skyline is a technical marvel that refuses to age. The draw distances are what really put modern titles to shame. Standing on top of Mount Chiliad and seeing the city lights flicker in the distance with zero pop-in is a feat of optimization that many 2026 developers still can't get right. The water physics, the way the ocean waves break against the shore with realistic foam and transparency, was years ahead of its time. But the real humbler is the lighting engine, the way the sun sets over the Vinewood sign, casting long, cinematic shadows that interact with the atmospheric haze. While modern games often feel over-designed with too many post-processing effects, GTA 5 has a clean, sharp, and physically grounded look. It proves that Rockstar's attention to detail, from the textures of the asphalt to the way car paint reflects the neon of the city, is a standard of quality that most AAA studios are still desperately chasing. Portal 2. If you want to see a masterclass in clinical art direction and engine efficiency, look no further than Portal 2. Released in 2011, this game uses a heavily modified source engine to create an aperture science that looks better than most high-budget sci-fi games released today. What humbles the modern era here is the animation and kinetic geometry. Watching the chambers rebuild themselves in real time, massive panels shifting, rotating, and clicking into place, is a visual spectacle that modern games often hide behind loading screens or scripted cutscenes. The material work on the surfaces, from the sterile white tiles to the rusted, overgrown machinery of the lower levels, features a level of tangibility that is rare in 2026. The lighting is crisp and functional, using high-contrast shadows to guide the player's eye through complex puzzles. But most importantly, the character design of GLaDOS and Wheatley, the way their mechanical eyes and plates move to show emotion, is a triumph of expressive animation that many photorealistic modern faces fail to achieve. It's a game that doesn't need millions of polygons to be beautiful. It just needs a brilliant vision and a perfectly tuned engine. BioShock is the ultimate proof that style is immortal. Released in 2007, the City of Rapture remains one of the most visually arresting environments in the history of the medium. What humbles modern games here is the world building through visuals, the Art Deco architecture, the flickering neon signs under the crushing pressure of the Atlantic, and the way the water leaks through the glass domes create an atmosphere so thick you can almost feel the humidity. The water shaders in BioShock were a revolution. The way fluid flows down the walls and pools on the floor with realistic reflections still looks better than the water in many next-gen titles that rely on lazy screen space effects. The design of the big daddies and the grotesque mutated splicers uses a heightened reality style that prevents the game from ever looking old. While modern games often focus on raw pixel count, BioShock focused on visual storytelling, ensuring that every flickering light and rusted pipe told the story of a fallen utopia. It's a hauntingly beautiful masterpiece that proves that a strong artistic soul will always outlast a high-end graphics card.
Vanquish. When we talk about visual chaos done right, Vanquish is the king. This 2010 sci-fi shooter from Platinum Games is a 60 FPS fireworks show that makes modern action games look like they're running in slow motion. What humbles the competition is the sheer number of moving parts and particle effects on screen at once. As Sam Gideon slides across the battlefield in his augmented reaction suit, the screen is filled with heat haze, sparks, and massive transforming robots, all without a single frame drop. The mechanical design is the real humiliator here. Every piece of Sam's suit and every part of the massive space colony feels like it has a function, with gears turning and panels shifting in real time. Modern action games often feel floaty or weightless, but Vanquish has a mechanical crunchiness that is visually satisfying. The lighting is bright, sharp, and high energy, perfectly matching the frenetic pace of the gameplay. It's a game that demands your full attention, delivering a level of kinetic energy and visual polish that most modern shooters are too afraid to attempt because they're too busy worrying about realistic dirt on the camera lens.
Wolfenstein: The New Order, released in 2014, Wolfenstein: The New Order is a masterpiece of industrial brutalism that puts many of today's military shooters to shame. Developed on the ID Tech 5 engine, the game uses a technology called megatextures, which allows for unique, non-repeating textures across massive surfaces. This means that every concrete bunker, every rusted pipe, and every colossal Nazi monument feels like a handcrafted piece of art, rather than a tiled asset. What humbles modern games here is the visual weight. The weapons don't just look big, they look heavy with mechanical parts that move, vent steam, and glow with heat. The character models, especially the villains like Frau Engel, feature incredible skin shaders and expressive animations that convey a level of malice that feels disturbingly real. The lighting is harsh and high contrast, perfectly capturing the oppressive atmosphere of an alternate 1960s dominated by a high-tech regime. It's a game that doesn't need a million post-processing filters to look good. It relies on its rock-solid art direction and its commitment to making every object in the world feel like it has a physical history.
Dishonored 2. If you want to talk about a game that looks like a living oil painting, you have to talk about Dishonored 2. Released in 2016, Arcane Studios opted for a stylized, hand-sculpted aesthetic that makes modern photorealistic games look incredibly boring. Every character in the city of Karnaca has an exaggerated, expressive anatomy that prevents them from ever falling into the uncanny valley. The lighting engine here is the real star. The way the Mediterranean sun filters through the dust in a ransacked apartment, or how the void levels warp reality with shimmering, fractured geometry is breathtaking. What humbles modern titles is the environmental detail. You can walk into a random house and tell exactly who lived there just by looking at the clutter, the paintings on the wall, and the way the furniture is arranged. This isn't just graphics, it's world building at the highest level. The technical polish on the Clockwork Mansion, where entire rooms shift and transform in real time, is a feat of engineering that most developers in 2026 are still too afraid to attempt. It's a gorgeous, dense, and artistically superior experience that proves style will always beat raw pixel count. Batman Arkham City is almost insulting to realize that Batman Arkham City came out in 2011 because it still feels like the definitive superhero visual experience. Rocksteady didn't just build a city, they built an atmosphere. What humbles modern open-world games is the material contrast, the way Batman's cape ripples in the wind, showing realistic wear and tear, and how the snow melts against the dark Gothic architecture of the city creates a noir vibe that is unmatched. The character designs are legendary. Every villain, from the Joker to Penguin, looks like they stepped out of a high-budget graphic novel. The technical fluidity of the free-flow combat system ensures that every punch and every gadget use looks perfectly choreographed, with no clipping or awkward transitions. The lighting uses deep blacks and vibrant neons to guide the player through the urban chaos, creating a world that is as dangerous as it is beautiful. While modern games often have larger maps, Arkham City has a much higher quality per square inch, proving that a dense, handcrafted world is infinitely more impressive than a massive, procedurally generated one.
Max Payne 3, Rockstar's Max Payne 3 is a 2012 title that still possesses the best animation and physics system in the entire shooter genre. Using the Euphoria physics engine, Max doesn't just play a walking animation, his body physically reacts to every stare, every wall, and every bullet impact. If you dive into a table, Max will actually put his hand out to brace himself based on the angle. This level of physical presence is something that most 2026 shooters have completely abandoned in favor of simpler, floatier movements. The shoot-dodge mechanic is a technical marvel. Watching the individual shell casings fly out of your gun while the environment shatters into thousands of physically reactive pieces is a visual high that never gets old. The lighting in the Brazilian favelas is vibrant and harsh, using a film strip aesthetic that makes the game feel like a high-octane action movie. It humbles the modern era by showing that when you prioritize the feel of the character in the world, the graphics become immortal. It's a visceral, violent, and technically perfect masterpiece that still runs like a dream on a modern PC.
Battlefield 1. It is almost frightening to realize that Battlefield 1 was released in 2016, because even a decade later, it still looks and sounds better than most military shooters released in 2025 or 2026. This was the absolute peak of the Frostbite engine. What humbles modern games here is the environmental destruction and materiality. When a shell hits the mud in Passchendaele, it doesn't just leave a decal, it creates a physical crater that fills with water, while the mud realistically cakes onto your weapon and uniform. The lighting, especially in the Oil of Empires desert maps, utilizes a physical rendering system that makes the heat haze and the sun glint off the sand look indistinguishable from a high-end film. The audio design is equally humiliating for the competition. The way sounds echo differently in a stone bunker versus a muddy trench is a level of acoustic detail that modern games often ignore. Battlefield 1 proved that you could have 64 players in a chaotic, fully destructible environment without sacrificing a single pixel of cinematic quality. It remains a technical benchmark that reminds us of a time when next gen actually meant a leap in physical realism.
Far Cry 3. In 2012, Far Cry 3 defined the tropical paradise aesthetic, and it's embarrassing how well it holds up against the over-processed, cluttered open worlds we see today. The Rook Islands weren't just big, they were vibrant. What humbles modern titles is the atmospheric clarity. The way the sun bleeds through the palm fronds using volumetric God rays created a sense of heat and humidity that felt tangible. The water technology was a total revolution. The transparency, the caustics, and the way the ocean interacted with the shore still look better than the plastic water we see in many modern budget titles.
But the real star is the fire. The way fire spreads dynamically through the dry grass, reacting to the wind and consuming the environment in real time, is a technical feature that many 2026 games have actually removed to save on CPU cycles. Far Cry 3 chose a saturated, beautiful art style that still pops on a modern monitor, proving that a strong visual identity and a reactive world are far more important than just having the highest resolution textures. Outlast. To close out the list, we have Outlast, a 2013 horror masterpiece that proves you don't need a massive team to humiliate AAA graphics. Developed on Unreal Engine 3, Outlast used a night vision mechanic as a brilliant technical trick. By viewing the world through a green-tinted camera lens, the developers were able to use high-contrast lighting and deep shadows to hide any technical limitations, creating an image that looks terrifyingly real. What humbles modern horror games is the tactile realism of the protagonist. You can see Miles's hands bracing against walls as he peeks around corners, and the way the blood splatters on the camera lens creates a layer of dirt that feels like it's part of the world, not just a post-processing filter. The character models of the variants, especially Chris Walker, feature skin shaders that look wet, bruised, and decayed in a way that is still deeply unsettling. It's a clean, perfectly optimized experience that uses lighting to drive raw, primal fear, proving that a focused technical goal can create a visual experience that outlasts any overhyped modern horror title. Looking at these 15 games, it's clear that the so-called golden age of PC graphics was never just about raw power. It was about intent, optimization, and soul. These games humiliate the modern era because they weren't built on lazy upscaling or unfinished engines. They were created by developers who pushed their tools to the absolute limit to make something immortal. But now I want to hear from you. Which of these old PC games do you think still has the best graphics today? And of course, did I leave out any legends? Let's get this debate going in the comments.